1977, and I talked about that last time, so I'm not going to do those stories now. But what I wanted to talk about was my early work and the lessons I learned when I first started doing stand-up comedy in Washington, D.C. When I first started getting work, it was all opening act for bands. And there's two places that really used me a lot were Blues Alley, and Cellar Door. And I opened up for, at the time, a lot of blues and jazz acts, Tony Williams, Tom White, Jack DeJarnette, and they were largely black audiences. And again, I was a very, very white guy. Young, blonde hair, blue eyes, and I had just this act to do. There's this little act that I had, this little 15, 20-minute act that I had. So I just did it, and I struggled through it. They were just being polite. You could just feel it, the tension in the room. Let's just suffer through them and get to get to the band we want to see. And so one night I did a show at the Cellar Door in front of one of these jazz groups, and a friend of mine from law school, this black classmate, she came to see me. And after the show, she said, "You know what I thought would be funny?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "I was thinking when you're up there goes the neighborhood." And I went, "Oh." So the next time I went in front of a black audience, I said, "I know what you're thinking. There goes the neighborhood." And they howled, man, because it was a big phrase back then that white people used to describe what would happen when a black person moved to their neighborhood. So here I was I'm explaining the joke like 101 here. I'm explaining the joke there. But I did the exact same act after that joke, and everything worked great. And it was like the importance of learning the opening joke, the opening line was key to everything. So I say this because, so this was like 1978. 1982, I moved out to Los Angeles, and one night I was hanging out at the Comedy Store, and this guy named Neil Jacobs, God rest his soul, was sort of like booking little gigs around town, around the area. And he said, "Would you like to do this one-nighter, like a $200 one-nighter out in Temecula? And you'll work with this guy named Charlie Hill." And I go, "Charlie Hill?" Oh, I knew who he was because I watched TV just religiously. I watched every stand-up on TV, and I saw his first Tonight Show shot. And I said, "Yeah, he was an American Indian." And I said, "I'd love to work with him and do this 200. I had no idea where Temecula was. I knew nothing about it. So we're driving out there, and I, again, knew I was an alcoholic before I knew I was an alcoholic. These guys were smoking weed on the way out, and I had the window down, so I knew if I got a contact time, I might not be able to do the show. So, because all I'd want to do is just get high then. So they were talking on the way out, and the guy, he goes, he says to Charlie Hill, "Who should close? Who should close?" And Charlie Hill goes to me, said, "He should close. He's got a lot of energy. Let him close." And I was like, "No, I don't have any credits. I got like a evening at the Improv credit, man. You're the Tonight Show. That trumps that. No, you got to close." He goes, "No, I'm not that much of a closer. You close the show." I said, "Okay, all right." So we get out there, we walk in the room, and it was like, I didn't know there were American Indians in that area. It was like Charlie's whole tribe was there, man. It was all like a lot of Indians there, and I looked, I went, "Oh my God, I walked into an ambush." And Charlie goes up and he kills. I mean, kills. He's doing inside jokes, and I have no idea what's going on. I just know he's killing, and I gotta follow him. And he comes off, and so the MC goes up and starts playing around with time. When Charlie comes off, he sees this, must have seen this look on my face, just like what have you done to me? He goes, "Listen." Charlie goes, "Listen, when you go up there, tell them that your grandmother was a Cherokee princess." And as he's saying that, they're introducing me. So I walked up. Now, the instinct I had because of my friend from before giving me that line about "there goes the neighborhood" was that Charlie wasn't setting me up to get killed. I had a feeling he was giving me a line. I didn't even understand the line. I didn't understand what was going to be funny about it. But I did. I opened with that line, and they howled. They howled. And the rest of my act, the same act I was going to do, it killed. And Charlie told me later afterwards, the reason it was so funny was that it's an inside joke with American Indians, is that when a white person says they have Indian blood, they always say Cherokee, and they always say that they have a Cherokee princess in their family. And there are no princes in the Cherokee Nation. So he gave me this perfect joke, The Charlie Hill. Now, Charlie Hill, I'll tell you why I tell the story. So then 1993, 11 years later, I'm working on the Roseanne show. And so Roseanne, at this point, had a child on the show. She had a child in real life. She had a child on the show. So she says to me one day, calls me into her office and says, I want to do John Goodman. I want John Goodman to have some sort of monologue to his newborn son in this next episode. You got dad issues. You write it. You write what he should say to his newborn son. Okay, so I took the time. I wrote it. And Alan Steven, who was started with me as a staff writer and three weeks later became an executive producer. That was the fastest, most meteoric rise. He and I were called to go to Roseanne's trailer for me to then talk about this monologue, which had been sent to Roseanne to read. So we go into the trailer. Roseanne's standing there. Her new husband, who was her former bodyguard, was there. And Roseanne's got the paper. She picks it up. She starts reading it. And we're standing right next to each other. And she goes, I don't understand this. So I go, well, let me tell you, this is. And she turned to me, and it was like a change, a complete personality change. She goes, did I ask you a question, you stupid motherfucker? And she starts screaming at me demonically. And now, I grew up in a house where it was real important to have a finely tuned fight or flight system. So I'm real good at judging whether I need to run or fight. Immediately, I didn't know if I could take Roseanne. But I certainly wasn't able to take her and her bodyguard husband. So I start to move. I start to really move for the door. Alan, unbeknownst to me, had hooked my belt loop. And so I started to move, and he yanks me back, and I look over, he's like, don't move. Don't move, and the shark won't get you. Just stay still. You know? That's what I took it as. Just stay still, go real zen, let the herd go around you, the stampede go around you. So Roseanne finishes yelling at me, and she goes back to the paper, and she finishes reading it, and she goes, this is fantastic. She goes, turns to me, she goes, that's great. You tell them, she goes to Alan, you tell them not to touch a word of this. This is perfect. Then she says to Alan, Thanksgiving was coming up soon. She goes, do we have a Thanksgiving episode yet? And Alan goes, no, but Rich has an idea. That's why he was an executive producer in 3 weeks. I had no idea. We had not talked about it a bit. But here's where the karma comes back for Charlie Hill. Because in my mind, it went word association. Thanksgiving, American Indian, Charlie Hill. I just said Charlie Hill. Roseanne went, I love Charlie Hill. You write the episode. That was the pitch. Charlie Hill. So we go back. Alan tells the head writer, he said, Rich is going to write the Thanksgiving episode. They go, well, you come up with an idea. So my idea was that Charlie Hill had been an activist in the American Indian movement. This is in the show. This is the fictional thing. And he had spent so much time being an activist that he had ignored his family, and his kids wouldn't speak to him anymore. So he came back to where he had his kids when they were young, which was the Connor house. And so on Thanksgiving Day, the Connors look out back, and Charlie Hill's sitting at their picnic table in the cold, trying to think about when things were good with him and his family. And they invite him in, like a reverse, they invite the Indian in to share their meal, and they have a nice time. That was it. Everybody liked it, broke the story, wrote the story, script was ready. Roseanne then went out and saw the Addams Family movie, which was playing at the time. The Addams Family movie featured a summer camp where the Indians attacked the Pilgrims and wiped them out. The kids doing a little play. She said, that's what I want our show to be. So my script was tossed out. A new one was put in where they had sort of a fantasy dream sequence that Roseanne dressed up like, I don't know if she was dressed up like an Indian or a pilgrim, I'm not really sure, but they brought Charlie Hill in. See, Charlie Hill then got a job. He got an acting job as a guest star, and he brought his whole family in and brought all of his, Floyd Westerman, who was sort of like his sort of shaman, I think, or whatever. And he came in, and we all had this drum circle at the end, and people are dancing. And Charlie came up to me and hugged me and said, this is one of the best days I ever had in showbiz. It came back around. I got a chance to pay him back for that line, and that's what it was. And then Floyd Westerman told me, your spirit animal is a lone wolf.